Hi everyone, welcome back to the skirt tutorial of the buba and pencil skirt with wrapper illusion style. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. So to start with, I already folded my fabric into two with the right side facing each other, and I'll be marking out the length of my skirt, which is 40. Because this is a pencil skirt and it's going to have a band, I subtracted 2 inches from it to make it 38. But I will also be adding my hemming allowance, which is 2 inches, and that is why you can see me mark 40 inches on the fabric. I hope that is well understood. I'm trimming this part off because I don't want it to show in my clothes. If you are okay with it, you can start your measurement from there. Okay, I will go ahead to mark out my hip line, which is 8.5 inches, but I'm also adding half inch sewing allowance, and that is why I'm marking 9 inches on my fabric. And once I'm done, I will also go ahead to mark out my new length, and that is 21 inches, as you can see me marking. Now this pencil skirt is going to be a butt contour skirt. That means I'll be making my butt to sit perfectly on the skirt. And now to start with, the first thing to do is to mark out the quarter of my waist measurement, which is 7.5 inches. Then I'm also going to add 1 inch for my dart and also 2 inches for my sewing allowance. Now I will just go over it to see if my measurement is accurate, and we can see that. Now for the hip side, because this is the front part of the skirt. Now the front part of the skirt is always flat. Now because it is a butt contour skirt, I'm going to mark out the quarter of my hip measurement minus 1 inches. Quarter of my hip measurement minus 1 inch. And on the new line, I'm going to reduce my hip measurement also by 1, meaning I have 8.5 inches and I also added my 2 inches sewing allowance. Or you can also decide to use your actual hip measurement, all well and good. Then for the M side also, I reduced my 8.5 inches on the new line, on the new 9 by 1 also, that meaning I have 7.5 inches. And I also added my sewing allowance, and that is all. And now I'm going to join all the lines together using my hand. And if you find it difficult to use your free hand, you can also use your ruler or your French curve. So guys, I know you might be wondering if the 1 inch I subtracted from my hip measurement is the standard. No, depending on how fitted you want it, or if you are on the slim side, you can decide to use 1.5 inches. But I wanted my pencil skirt not too fitted, so I'm sticking with the 1 inch. Just be creative about it. And please note, whatsoever you deducted from the front hip will be added back to the back hip. Once you're done measuring, you cut it out, and then we move over to the back side of the pencil skirt. Okay, before cutting out the back, I will come down by half of an inch at the upper part of my front skirt because I want my band to sit very well on my waist. Now the mistake I made here was that I did not mark out my dart allowance first before cutting it out, and also I should have marked out my back before cutting it out. So please don't cut out yet until you draw out your pattern. To cut out the back part of the skirt, place the front pattern on it, and please leave as much as possible some allowance at the center back of the back. And for the upper part, I am just marking out 1.5 inch for my basket so that when I sit I won't be exposed, just like the way you raise the back part of the trousers up. That is exactly what I'm doing here. So you can see that I left out some allowances already. And now remember that I already added 2 inches sewing allowance to the front part of the skirt. So what I'm going to do now is to cut out at the side of the skirt. I'll be cutting it out equal because I have my sewing allowance already. The only part I'll be leaving extra fabric is at the center back. At the center back, you cut the side of the skirt equal. Both side of the front and the basket should be equal as seen on the screen. Now, the reason why you are leaving some allowances is because, like I said earlier, the inches you subtracted from the front hip will be added back to the back hip, and that is what will make our butt contour to be visible. Now remember that I subtracted 1 inch from the front. I'll be adding the 1 inch back to the hip measurement. That means the quarter of my hip measurement plus 1 inch, which is 10.5 inches. And I will also add the 1 inch I subtracted from the front back to make it 11.5 inches. Don't forget the quarter of my hip measurement, that is 10.5 plus 1 inch I subtracted from the front to make it 11.5 inches. And we already had our sewing allowance, so I am covered for the sewing allowance, and that is what I am marking out. I hope it is well understood. So now that I'm done marking it out, I still have some allowances left, and that will go for my zipper allowance. That will go for my zipper allowance. Repeating myself, quarter hip measurement 10.5 inches plus 1 inch I subtracted 11, then my sewing allowance 13.5. We are good to go. Now what I will do is to come down by 8 inches from the hip line, and that will serve as my butt line. So I will come down and mark it out just as you can see, and I will also connect that part to the waistline. Just use your French curve to make that part, and if you think it is too curvy, just adjust it with your hand or just adjust it to your taste. And I'm going to mark out 1 inch zipper allowance from my waistline down to the hem line, as you can see me doing on the screen. And once I'm done marking it out, I'll be making the line visible so it will be easier for me to cut out without making any mistake. A big thumbs up to everyone that has watched this video so far to this length. I say a big thank you, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and you can also drop your question in the comment section, and I'll be more than willing to answer any question. Thank you so much. And so we are good to go with the butt contour. The next thing is to mark out my dart, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement, and that is 3.5 inches. I mark it out on the front piece and the back piece, and I notch it so it will be easier to sew while sewing with my lining. Now the next thing I did is to mark out the 2 inches I left earlier for my hemming, and I'm also going to notch that part also because I'll be turning in my fabric from there with my lining. So now that I'm done, I will cut out the skirt, the basket now, and just follow the curve as you can see. Just follow that way and you cut it down, and we are done with that and good to go. So after I'm done, the next thing I will do is to cut out the lining pieces also I want to use to turn out the skirt. Have gone ahead to cut out the lining, and as you can see it is shorter than the actual fabric by 2 inches for the hemming I left earlier. This is because I will use the fabric to turn the lining in, so it won't be showing at the tip of the skirt. So for the sewing, I will open up my skirt piece, the front piece first, then I will place my lining on the right side of the fabric and stitch all through, round all through at the side and also at the bottom, and I will use that to turn it. So after stitching, this is what it looks like, and I also did the same for the back piece. And now we are ready. So this is how it's going to be now. To place the front piece and the back piece together like this is how it's going to look like. And remember that the skirt has a wrapper illusion. So before I go ahead to stitch down the front and the back, I will place my wrapper that I did earlier. I've already gone ahead to stitch down the edges. My wrapper is 18 inches wide and 20 inches long. So I'm going to stitch it to the side, to one side of the skirt, the front part of the skirt, as you can see. So depending on where you want your wrapper to start from, you can start from the tip. Remember, I will add band to it, or you can start from anywhere you want it to be, and then you pleat all through down to the length you want. And once you're done, you stitch it down on the sewing machine so that it will be easier to attach the back. And this is what it looks like after I'm done stitching it. You can see. So now I'm ready to place my back skirt, my back block now, and sew. And I'm going to stitch down that part with the allowance I left earlier. Now before you stitch the other part of the skirt, make sure you remove the wrapper before stitching it, because the wrapper flows is not stitched down. So after you remove it, then you stitch the other side of the skirt. And this is what it looks like after stitching the part that has the wrapper and the other side of the skirt. You can see it opened. And now for your wrapper, you decide where you want to place it, if you want it to be straight or a bit above or below, just to your discretion. All you have to do is to fold the fabric with your ends to form the pleat, and you attach it to where you want it. And after you're done, you close the zipper. But before you do that, you're going to attach your band. Remember, I told you that this skirt will have a band. So you attach your band and you put your zipper, and with that we are done with the sewing. And we've come to the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching so far. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.